Good morning, everybody. I've just been spending some time inside the police station here with the police, with members of the community, with members of the local authority. And I think the fact that this police station had been firebombed in the first place is a demonstration of quite how ugly and unacceptable the violence was in the first place. But also, it's a real tribute to the local community and to the police that the police station is back fully in working order. There's no apparent damage on the front, that's been completely repaired, and people are out in the community making sure that people stand together against the thuggery and criminality that occurred last Tuesday night. And I felt real pride from all the people I spoke to that Nottingham has kind of stood up against what happened on Tuesday night, and things have been cleaned up and the city is moving on. And so yes, this has been an incredibly distressing week, but if you look at what happened here in Nottingham, I think there's also some signs of a very strong, healthy community which is bouncing back fast.
Do you think the police were in control at the beginning of these riots?
Well, here, what happened was, kind of out of nowhere, firebombs were thrown at this police station, and very quickly the fires were put out, and people were arrested, who now found themselves in court, and with sentences imposed upon them. You know, you've got to be fair to what happened here in Nottingham. There was no looting in the city centre. There was an attempt by some of the thugs and criminals to get into the city centre, and they were stopped. And that's an example of good policing at a crucial moment at a time of heightened anxiety earlier in the week.
What about the rest of the country?
I think, of course, there are going to have to be lessons learned. The police have said that. Of course, they will review what happened. With the benefit of hindsight, we can all, act as armchair generals saying that this or that should have happened. But I think the key thing is that what the public want to see is that the streets are safe again, shops are safe again, homes are safe again, families are safe again, and that the people who did all of this are in court and are being properly punished.
Is it time to rethink the cuts to the police budget?
I don't think that you can in any way explain or excuse the spectacle, the ugly spectacle of people smashing windows and stealing flat screen televisions and mobile phones and items of clothing on the basis of government policies which may or may not affect this or that police force in 3 or 4 years' time. I think it is a ridiculous argument, and I think it is almost an excuse being provided for the unrest that we have seen. There was no excuse. There is no excuse. It was totally out of order, and it is right that people are now being punished.
But Chief Constable here are saying that those cuts will affect in the future. They will not have the ability to deploy in the way they did with the cuts in 3 or 4 years' time.
Firstly, I've just come from a meeting where I've heard repeatedly police officers reassure me and reassure members of the community here that there will be no frontline cuts to the neighbourhood policing teams here in Stenton, in St Anne's, whatsoever. Secondly, the redeployment of police officers around the country, which we saw dramatically in London, the almost tripling of the number of police officers in 24 hours period of time, that will happen in the future much as it does now. And everybody accepts, and I think all serious observers of policing, etc., is that there's always more that can be done to make sure that police officers are out on the front line, not strapped to their desks, not weighed down by paperwork. It is independently assessed that around only 12% of police officers are out on the front line at any one time. That is clearly something that we can work to change.
The Chief Constable of Leicestershire says that his contingency reserve is spent now. Would you support more money for police officers if this kind of activity continues?
Well, clearly these exceptional circumstances that the police have faced now require exceptional support from the government. So we've been very clear, for instance, that the liabilities that the police face under the Riots Act will be met by the Treasury. That is quite right. This was not a normal state of affairs, and of course we should support the police through these times. But that doesn't mean we can't continue to work together with the police to make sure that policing is working for neighbourhoods and communities, even as savings are having to be made for all the reasons that we know.
So you all said that the politicians were an irrelevance to the change in tactics in the way that these riots were policed. Is he right?
Of course, the police are right when they say that they are operationally independent. It's one of the cornerstones of the great tradition of policing in this country, which is that you don't have politicians telling policemen what they do minute by minute, hour by hour, street by street, community by community. They are operationally in charge. That is what British policing has always been about, and it is what it always will be about.
So the Prime Minister says that the police were too slow, too timid and too few. Do you agree with him?
Well, the police themselves have acknowledged that they will review what happened. The police themselves have acknowledged, as the Prime Minister described in his statement yesterday in the House of Commons, that of course they were taken by surprise. Of course events move very, very fast, and of course lessons should be learned. And that is something we should all do together. And I've seen police officers, senior police officers, and the Prime Minister, myself and the Home Secretary working very effectively together in Cobra and in meetings in Whitehall over the last several days.
Yesterday, an 11-year-old girl pleaded guilty to taking part in the riots. I mean, no justification whatsoever, but are we now acknowledging that there's a problem that, is far beyond, what we...
Of course there are wider problems, and of course in the weeks and the months ahead, we have to ask ourselves why an 11-year-old girl, or young teenagers, feel that they've got so little stake in their own neighbourhood, in their own community, they've got so little sense of kind of belonging, that they go around trashing it. There's something we need to ask ourselves about how that has come about. And I think one of the parts of the answer, but it's a complex picture, is to make sure that wherever possible we give people opportunities. Because with opportunities to get ahead and create the kind of life that they want, that also creates a sense of responsibility, which was so absent in these horrific events over the last several days.
Do you have a question for kids going into the weekend? A lot of the ones that were arrested, 15, 14, heading into the weekend now, do you have a direct message for them?
Well, I think for any youngster, or indeed anybody who thinks that this weekend might be an occasion to cause trouble again, think again. Think again. Look what's happening in the courts. Look what's happening with the increasing number of arrests. You won't get away scot-free. You will get a knock on the door. You can't just get away and commit crime and somehow think there are no consequences. There are. But there's also, I hope, going to be a positive side to the weekend. The carnival here is going to continue. I think it's great that hasn't been changed or cancelled. And I hope that the carnival, far from being a kind of source of fear or anxiety, might actually be an occasion for celebration. The community comes together after what has been a really, really difficult and traumatic week. Thank you very much.
Can we just ask about the judges? The candidate better than other
Sorry?
Do you think that not to support the candidate better than other people?
I think it's unfair on the police, and it's unfair on police forces to sort of embark on a kind of competition comparing one to the other, because circumstances have been very different one to the other. But certainly from what I've seen here in Nottingham, I think people should be rightly proud. The community and the police have worked so effectively together, that they have been able to restore the police station here behind me back to working order so quickly, and that there wasn't any looting and rioting in the city centre. That is something I think Nottingham can be very rightly proud of. Thank you very much. Thank you.
The judges were very critical yesterday of the sentencing paper hand out. Do you have anything to say about the sentencing paper hand out?